Little boy loses his beloved dog. What happens next touches the hearts of everyone in the community and brings tears. In a small town surrounded by endless green fields and a sparkling blue lake, 12-year-old Enoch found joy in the simplest of things. Every day was an adventure, especially with his loyal golden retriever, Rufus, by his side. The bond between them was unbreakable. They were more than just boy and dog, they were partners in exploration. Enoch loved the way Rufus would bound through the tall grass, his golden fur glistening in the sun, as if he was made of light itself. "Race you to the lake," Enoch shouted one sunny afternoon, laughter spilling from his lips like water from a fountain. Without hesitation, Rufus took off, tail wagging furiously. The boy chased after him, feeling the soft earth beneath his feet and the warm breeze against his skin. Together, they leapt through fields of wildflowers, their laughter echoing in the stillness of summer. They would spend hours at the lake, splashing and swimming, the water cool and refreshing. Enoch would throw a ball, and Rufus would leap into the air, catching it with his mouth mid-flight. It was a scene of pure happiness, a moment frozen in time. But as the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over everything, a shadow loomed over their perfect days. One fateful afternoon, everything changed. As Enoch threw the ball farther than ever before, Rufus darted after it, his eyes filled with excitement. "Get it, Rufus!" Enoch cheered, his heart racing with joy. But then, in a heartbeat, tragedy struck. A car came speeding down the road, its tires screeching against the pavement. Enoch's heart dropped as he saw Rufus collide with the vehicle. Time seemed to freeze around him. "No, Rufus!" he cried out, his voice breaking with fear. He ran to his friend, panic gripping his chest. Kneeling beside Rufus, he felt the world around him begin to blur. The vibrant colors of summer faded to gray, and the air felt heavy with sorrow. Rufus lay still, his golden fur now dulled by the harsh reality of what had happened. Enoch's heart shattered into a million pieces, each fragment echoing the love and joy they had shared. "Please, Rufus, wake up," Enoch begged, tears streaming down his cheeks. It felt as if a part of him had been ripped away, leaving a void that consumed him. The laughter of their past adventures echoed in his mind, now hauntingly distant. How could everything change so quickly? The world that once sparkled with joy now felt empty and cold. He sat there for what felt like hours, whispering to Rufus, recalling their happiest moments. "Remember when we chased the butterflies? Or when you jumped into the lake for the first time?" Each memory pierced his heart, reminding him of the bond they shared. But now, that bond felt fragile, like a thread ready to snap. Enoch's heartache was palpable, a heavy weight pressing down on him. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the ground, and Enoch felt utterly alone. Would he ever find joy again? Would the laughter they shared ever return? The lake, once a place of happiness, now felt like a reminder of his loss. As the first stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, Enoch remained by Rufus's side, lost in his thoughts. The boy, who once ran with joy, now knelt in despair. Yet, amidst the darkness, a small flicker of hope lingered in his heart, waiting for the day when he could remember Rufus not with sorrow, but with the love that had brought them together in the first place. Days turned into weeks after the terrible accident, and Enoch found himself lost in a fog of sadness. The vibrant world he once knew felt gray and heavy. Each morning, he would wake up to the same empty room, the absence of Rufus echoing in every corner. He used to jump out of bed, excited for another day of adventure, but now he lay still, staring at the ceiling with tears in his eyes. At school, Enoch drifted through the halls like a ghost. His friends, who once laughed and played with him, seemed distant. They would call out to him, "Hey, Enoch, want to play soccer after school?" But he only shrugged and walked away, avoiding their concerned glances. He could not bear to think of the games they used to play, the joy that Rufus brought to their gatherings. After school, He wandered through the town, but he avoided the park where Rufus used to chase squirrels and splash in the lake. The laughter of other children felt like a sharp reminder of what he had lost. Instead, he spent most of his time in his room, clutching Rufus's favorite toy, a frayed tennis ball, and staring at the walls. One day, as Enoch sat on his bed, he heard a soft knock on his door. It was Mrs. Jenkins, their kind neighbor. "Enoch, dear, I brought you some cookies," she said, her voice gentle. He could see the worry in her eyes. "Thanks, Mrs. Jenkins," he replied quietly, not looking up. The smell of fresh cookies filled the room, but he felt too heavy to care. "I know it's hard. Rufus was a special dog," she said, sitting on the edge of his bed. "He brought so much joy to all of us. We miss him too." Enoch finally looked up at her, his heart aching. "I just want him back," he whispered, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I understand, sweetheart. It's okay to feel this way. You are not alone." Mrs. Jenkins patted his shoulder before leaving, but her words lingered in his mind. As the days passed, the town mourned Rufus together. At the local cafe, people shared stories about the golden retriever who had touched their lives. Silas, the artist, decided to paint a portrait of Rufus to hang in the cafe. Enoch heard about it from his classmates, and part of him felt grateful, while another part felt angry. Why do they have to remember him? He thought. When the portrait was unveiled, Enoch stood in the back, arms crossed, watching. Silas had captured Rufus's playful spirit perfectly. The dog's golden fur seemed to glow, and his eyes sparkled with joy. "This is beautiful," someone whispered beside him. Enoch felt a pang in his heart. "Do you want to come see it up close?" a friend asked, stepping toward him. But Enoch just shook his head. "No," he mumbled. He turned and walked away, not ready to face the memories that flooded his mind. Yet, despite his desire to be alone, the kindness of his neighbors began to seep through his walls of grief. One afternoon, he found a stack of letters in his mailbox, each one filled with stories from his classmates. "I lost my cat last year," one letter read. "It hurt so much, but I learned to remember the good times." Reading those letters made him feel less isolated. He started to notice that others had faced loss too. "Maybe I am not the only one," he thought. "Hey, Enoch, how are you doing?" A voice called out one day. It was Mia, his best friend. He looked up, surprised to see her standing there with a shy smile. "Not great," he admitted, feeling a little guilty for being so honest. "I miss Rufus." "I miss him too," she said softly. "He was the best dog. But I'm here for you. We can talk about it, or just sit together." Enoch felt a flicker of warmth in his chest. Maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to carry this weight alone. As he and Mia sat together, he began to understand that grief was not something to hide from, but something to share. In that moment, surrounded by the kindness of his friends and the memories of Rufus, Enoch took a small step toward healing. He realized that while he could never replace Rufus, he could learn to honor his memory in new and meaningful ways. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a gentle glow over the park where Enoch and Rufus had spent countless hours playing. The air was cool, and the soft rustling of leaves whispered memories of happier times. Enoch walked slowly towards the old bench, his heart heavy with the weight of grief. He could almost hear Rufus's joyful barks echoing through the night. As he settled onto the bench, Enoch took a deep breath. "Hey, Rufus," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "I miss you so much." The silence of the park seemed to wrap around him, and for a moment, he felt as if Rufus was right there beside him, wagging his tail and looking up with those warm, brown eyes. Tears filled Enoch's eyes as he recalled their adventures, chasing butterflies in the fields, splashing in the lake, and curling up together under the stars. "Do you remember that time we tried to catch a squirrel?" He chuckled softly, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "You were so fast, but that little guy was quicker." The memories flooded back, each one a bittersweet reminder of the love they shared. It was moments like these that made Enoch feel both grateful and heartbroken. He spoke to the night, sharing stories that only he and Rufus understood. "You always knew how to make me smile," he said, his voice trembling. "I don't know how to do that anymore." As the moonlight danced on the grass, Enoch felt a shift within him. The pain of loss was still there, but he realized he didn't have to carry it alone. "Maybe I can still honor you, Rufus," he continued, his heart racing with a new idea. "What if I could help other kids like me, kids who have lost their pets?" A sense of purpose began to bloom in his chest. He could picture an event, a gathering where people could come together to remember their beloved animals. "We could share stories, Rufus," he said, his eyes sparkling with determination. "We could celebrate love instead of just sadness." The thought excited him, and he knew he had to act on it. Enoch stood up, feeling a renewed energy coursing through him. "I'm going to do it. I'll plan a remembrance event right here in the park." He smiled, imagining the laughter and tears that would fill the air, just like it once had when Rufus was by his side. As he walked back home, Enoch began to outline his plan. He would invite families to bring their pets, to share stories of love and loss. "I'll call it a night of remembrance," he murmured, feeling the weight of grief start to lift. He thought of Silas, the artist in town who had painted Rufus's portrait. "I'll ask Silas to help. Maybe he can set up a little art corner for kids to create their own memories." The glow from the street lamps lit his path, and Enoch's heart raced with anticipation. "And I could make flyers," he exclaimed, his excitement bubbling over. "I'll ask everyone to write down their favorite memory with their pets. It will be beautiful." When he reached home, Enoch grabbed some paper and began to sketch out his ideas. The words flowed easily as he wrote about the event, imagining the joy it could bring to others. "This will be a way to keep your spirit alive, Rufus," he said softly, as if the universe was listening. "You may be gone, but your love will always be here." As he finally settled into bed that night, Enoch felt a sense of peace wash over him. He understood that while the pain of losing Rufus would never completely fade, he could transform that pain into something meaningful. "Thank you for the inspiration, buddy," he whispered into the quiet room, a smile creeping onto his face. "I know you'll be with me every step of the way." With that thought in mind, Enoch drifted off to sleep, dreaming of a night filled with laughter, love, and the vibrant spirit of his best friend. The sun rose gently over the small town, painting the sky in warm hues of orange and pink. Enoch stood in front of his house, feeling a mixture of excitement and nerves. Today was the day he had planned the community event at the park, a day for everyone to come together and share stories of their pets. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. "Are you ready, Rufus?" he whispered, looking at the empty space beside him where his loyal golden retriever used to sit. Enoch smiled softly, imagining Rufus wagging his tail, encouraging him to move forward. As he walked to the park, Enoch noticed families arriving with their pets, all bringing their own stories and memories. The air was filled with laughter and the joyful barks of dogs. Enoch felt a warmth spreading in his chest. He had hoped for this day to help others, but now he realized it was also helping him heal. "Hey, Enoch!" shouted Mia, one of his classmates, as she approached with her small dog, Bella. "I'm so glad you organized this. It's nice to remember Rufus together." "Thanks, Mia," Enoch replied, feeling a bit shy but grateful for her support. "I just thought it would be nice for everyone to share." As more people gathered, Enoch took a moment to look around. Families of all shapes and sizes had come, each with their own furry friends. He noticed Mr. Thompson, the elderly man who lived down the street, sitting on a bench with his cat, Whiskers. Enoch had often seen Mr. Thompson walking Whiskers, and the sight brought a smile to his face. "Enoch, this is a wonderful idea," Mr. Thompson said, nodding his head. "Rufus brought joy to many of us. It's good to see everyone together." "Thank you, Mr. Thompson." "It means a lot," Enoch replied, his heart swelling with gratitude. The event began with Enoch standing in front of the crowd. He felt a little nervous, but he was determined to share his thoughts. "Thank you all for coming today. This is a special day to honor our pets and the joy they bring us. Rufus was not just my dog, he was part of all our lives." His voice cracked slightly, but he continued, "I want us to share our stories, to remember the love and happiness they gave us." As people began to share their stories, a sense of togetherness filled the air. A little girl talked about her puppy, Max, who always made her laugh. An older woman shared how her cat, Mittens, had been her best friend during lonely times. Each story brought laughter and tears, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences. Enoch listened closely, feeling a bond growing among everyone present. He noticed how people leaned in closer, their faces brightening when they spoke about their pets. It reminded him of the joy he had with Rufus, and he felt Rufus's spirit surrounding him. After several stories, Enoch decided it was time for the tribute. He called everyone's attention back. "I would like to honor Rufus now. He taught me about love, loyalty, and friendship. I know he is here with us today." He paused, taking a breath to steady himself. "Let's remember him by sharing a moment of silence." The crowd grew quiet, and Enoch closed his eyes, picturing Rufus running freely in the fields, his golden fur shining in the sun. The silence felt comforting, a reminder of love that would never fade. When the moment passed, Enoch opened his eyes and looked around. "Thank you all for being here," he said. "Rufus may be gone, but his spirit lives on in each story we share and in the love we have for our pets." As the event continued, Enoch felt a renewed sense of purpose. He watched as families bonded, sharing laughter and tears over their pets. He realized that while Rufus was no longer by his side, his spirit was very much alive in the connections being made around him. "Let's keep celebrating our pets," Enoch suggested, his heart full. "Let's do this again. It feels good to remember and share." "Absolutely," Mia replied enthusiastically. "This was amazing, Enoch. Rufus would be proud." Enoch smiled, knowing that Rufus's love had brought everyone together. The day ended with hugs, laughter, and promises to meet again. As Enoch walked home, he felt lighter, surrounded by the warmth of community and the love that would always connect them. As the sun rose softly over the small town, Enoch felt a new light in his heart. The community event had ended, but its warm glow lingered. He had shared stories, laughter, and tears with others who understood his pain. Now, he was ready to start reconnecting with his friends. It was time to step out of the shadows of his grief. One bright afternoon, Enoch walked to the park, feeling the gentle breeze on his face. He spotted a group of kids playing soccer. He hesitated for a moment, remembering how Rufus used to run alongside him, chasing the ball. But this time, instead of turning away, he took a deep breath and approached the group. "Hey, can I join?" he asked, his voice a little shaky but hopeful. "Sure, we need another player," replied a boy named Lucas, grinning from ear to ear. The simple acceptance warmed Enoch's heart. He felt a thrill of excitement as he ran onto the field. Laughter echoed around him, and he kicked the ball with all his strength, feeling alive again. After the game, Enoch sat on a bench, panting but smiling. Lucas sat beside him, still catching his breath. "You're pretty good. I haven't seen you around much lately. Where have you been?" he asked. Enoch looked down for a moment, then replied, I was just dealing with some stuff. My dog, Rufus, he passed away." Lucas nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I'm sorry. That's tough. I lost my cat last year. It hurt a lot." Enoch felt a connection growing between them. "Thanks. It really did hurt. But I had this event to remember him. It felt good to talk about it with others." "Yeah, talking helps," Lucas said. "You know, you could come to my house this weekend. We can hang out and play video games. It'll be fun." A smile spread across Enoch's face. "I'd like that." It felt good to have an invitation, a chance to make new memories. As days passed, Enoch began to volunteer at the local animal shelter. Each time he walked through the doors, The sound of barking and meowing greeted him. He felt a sense of purpose as he cared for the animals, giving them love and attention. One afternoon, he sat on the floor with a small puppy named Daisy, who bounced around him with joy. "You remind me of Rufus," Enoch said softly, scratching behind her ears. "You've got a lot of energy." A woman named Mrs. Thompson, who worked at the shelter, smiled as she watched him. "You have a special way with these animals, Enoch. They can feel your love." "Thanks, Mrs. Thompson," he said, looking up at her. "It feels good to help them. I think it helps me too." As he spent more time at the shelter, Enoch met other volunteers. They shared stories about their pets and their losses. One day, a girl named Mia sat beside him while he fed the cats. "Do you think Rufus would have liked this place?" she asked, her voice soft. "I think he would have loved it," Enoch replied, a smile creeping onto his face. "He always wanted to play with every dog he met." Mia laughed. "Then, let's keep his spirit alive by making this place better for them." With every visit to the shelter, Enoch felt his heart heal a little more. He began to see the joy in helping others, just as Rufus had brought joy to his life. He learned that love wasn't just about holding on, it was also about sharing and giving. One sunny day, as he walked back home from the shelter, Enoch felt a sense of peace wash over him. He noticed the flowers blooming and the laughter of children playing. The world seemed brighter, more colorful. He realized that while Rufus was gone, the lessons he had learned would stay with him forever. Enoch understood that he could carry Rufus's love into everything he did. As he reached his front door, he looked up at the sky, feeling grateful for the memories and the new connections he was forming. "Thank you, Rufus," he whispered, knowing that his beloved dog would always be a part of his journey. With newfound joy in his heart, Enoch was ready to embrace whatever came next. Enoch sat on the swings in the park, the familiar creaking sound bringing back memories of simpler times spent with Rufus. The sun was shining brightly, casting warm rays that danced around him. He watched as children played with their pets, laughter filling the air. It was a beautiful day, and for the first time in a long while, Enoch felt a sense of peace settle in his heart. "Hey, Enoch," a voice called out. It was Mia, a girl from his class, running toward him with her fluffy golden retriever, Bella. "Want to play fetch with us?" Enoch hesitated for a moment, thinking of Rufus, but he remembered the warmth of their bond and how Rufus loved to chase after the ball. "Sure, I'd love to," he replied, a smile creeping onto his face. As they played, Enoch felt the joy of the moment wash over him. Bella raced after the ball, her golden fur shining in the sunlight, reminding Enoch of Rufus. "Look at her go," Mia laughed. "She's so fast." "Just like Rufus," Enoch said softly, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. Mia noticed the change in his tone and gently asked, "Are you okay? I know it's still hard for you." Enoch took a deep breath. "Yeah, it is, but I think I'm starting to understand that it's okay to feel happy again, even without Rufus." Mia nodded, her eyes sparkling with understanding. "That's really brave of you, Enoch. Rufus would want you to be happy." As they continued to play, Enoch felt his heart lift. He realized that love does not fade, it transforms. He could carry the love he had for Rufus into new friendships and experiences. "Do you think we could do this more often?" he asked Mia, excitement bubbling inside him. "Definitely. We can make it a regular thing. I've got a few friends who would love to come too," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. The idea of gathering friends at the park filled Enoch with hope. He imagined the laughter, the games, and the stories they would share, all while keeping Rufus's spirit alive in their hearts. "Let's plan for next Saturday. We can invite everyone," he suggested. "Great idea. I'll bring some snacks," Mia replied, her eyes gleaming. "It'll be fun." As the afternoon wore on, Enoch found himself surrounded by more friends, each bringing their pets along. The park was filled with joy and laughter. just as it had been during his happiest moments with Rufus. Enoch felt connected to everyone around him, and the weight of his grief began to lift. "Enoch, look!" shouted a boy named Jake, pointing at Bella, who was happily rolling in the grass. "She's so silly." "Yeah, she is," Enoch laughed, feeling lighter with each passing moment. "Just like Rufus used to be." As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park, Enoch gathered everyone for a moment of reflection. "I just want to say thank you for being here today," he began, his voice steady. "I know we all have our stories of love and loss. Rufus taught me so much about friendship. I believe he would be happy seeing us all together." The group nodded in agreement, and Mia added, "And this is just the beginning. We can keep celebrating our pets and the love they brought into our lives." Feeling a sense of warmth in the circle of friends, Enoch smiled brightly. "Yes, let's keep this going. We can create new memories while honoring the ones we lost." As the evening drew to a close, Enoch looked up at the sky, where stars began to twinkle. He felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. Rufus's spirit was still with him, inspiring him to love, to hope, and to connect with others. Enoch knew that while he would always miss his beloved friend, the love they shared would carry on in everything he did. "Good night, Rufus," he whispered to the sky, feeling a sense of peace envelop him. The laughter and joy around him were a reminder that life continues, and with each new day comes the chance for new beginnings. Share this story if you believe that love can conquer even the toughest challenges. Leave a comment about how a surprising moment has changed your life, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one.